Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Jack Kirby Day, so we're taking a look at the next issue of his Fourth World Saga at DC Comics in the early 70s. This is New Gods issue number 3, cover dated July 1971. Now, obviously, if I read it out, Orion of the New Gods. This is kind of an example of how Kirby, had so many ideas and he was kind of just throwing stuff out there. I feel like New Gods doesn't really come into its own before somewhere around issue 5, coincidentally, when Mike Royer comes in as inker, and the art obviously improves when he comes in, and I think the story does too with that issue. Not that these first few issues aren't fun and great, but there's some concepts that are introduced that are really strong and will stick around, but others that'll fall by the wayside. So a lot of the concepts in this issue, I feel, are kind of the stuff that he's trying out early on that he's going to get rid of. The human focus, right? There's a crew that was introduced earlier on in the New God series of humans that kind of are helping out Orion on Earth, here on Earth. At least in the storyline, right? That will kind of fall by the wayside. And then, later on from issue 5 till the end of the series, we'll really be focusing just on the New Gods. Even the title here, Orion of the New Gods, kind of suggests that, Orion is the star of the series, and the other New Gods are kind of secondary players, I guess, up till now, where later on, I think, there's always somewhat of a focus on Orion, but then we get a lot more of the other New Gods characters, Light Ray and Metron, as the series progresses. So it's kind of always in between. Is it, New Gods or is it Orion? I guess depends on your point of view. Starting with the cover, he introduces a new character in this issue. Just visually, I really like this kind of Kirby drawing here. It has all the Kirby stuff that I like. Great foreshortening, a character coming at you, Kirby squiggles all over the place. Looks really good. Unfortunately, the character himself is a little bit cheesy, the Black Racer. There was that thing back in the 60s and 70s. Any character who was black was called Black something, right? I don't think Jack Kirby in any way was trying to be racist. That was just something people did back then. For some reason, he had to point out the character was black in his name. If for some reason people couldn't tell just by looking at him, it's pretty obvious, I think. And I think he's kind of riffing on the concept of the Silver Surfer here and going, well, okay, I've already done the Silver Surfer. How about I do the Black Racer and he's on skis, right? I just don't find skis visually or aesthetically as cool in a superhero kind of sci-fi aesthetic, as cool as the Silver Surfer, right? For some reason, the surfboard seems to work well with the cosmic, kind of tropes and stuff, but the skis, not so much. At this, the actual skis, whatever, but the fact that he's got his poles in his hands and he flies around is just a little odd to me, and probably not just to me, to a lot of people, I think. The color scheme is a little odd too, very focused on primary colors, yellow, blue, and magenta, which is an odd choice. I don't think it was Jack Kirby's. Later on, I remember from the DC cards that we used to have in the early 90s, the Black Racer his costume does evolve to just being fully black, or, the blue parts that kind of replaces black overall in comics, especially in the 60s and 70s, right? But here he's just doused in primary colors, and it just looks a little odd to me. I do like the cover, though. Once again, we've got the same kind of composition that we had before with the strip at the top, not at the bottom there, so it changes from issue to issue in the design, but we still have some collage photos in the background here for the cityscape, which I think work really well in this cover. Again, gives the books a somewhat cohesive look throughout the Fourth World Saga. The only funny kind of detail here is I have to imagine that maybe this is a more modern picture at the top, and down here maybe a little more, I'll call it old-timey, because the car we got here is clearly from the 1920s, 1930s. So kind of a funny choice, but not a detail that, probably anyone noticed that much. I just picked up on that and thought that was kind of funny. Again, story-wise, Kirby sometimes I think is kind of all over the place, at least early on, throwing all these concepts out. So, the verbiage on this cover here, is he after Orion or you? Well, neither, right? I can understand to put this mystery here and to connect it to you. Is the Black Racer coming after you? But in the story, he's actually not coming after Orion. He's coming after Light Ray. So kind of an odd choice to have that on the cover here. I mean, it would have been easy, is he after Light Ray, and have a shot of Light Ray there. But I guess because Orion is the main character, they figured they better throw him on the cover. Run, Run, Death is the Black Racer. So basically, if you don't know the Black Racer, he's kind of like Jack Kirby's Fourth World Nougat's version of the Grim Reaper, basically. He's who comes to get you when it's your time to die, basically. And we've got a kind of a shot of a gangster here down here, because Intergang is involved in the story. Yeah, so Intergang basically being the Apocalypse contingent here on Earth, kind of an in-between between Darkseid and his plans on Earth, looking for the anti-life equation. So pretty cool looking cover. Like I said, it screams 70s, color-wise, composition-wise, the collage in the background, all the kind of stuff I love about this period. So I love that aesthetic. Let's move on to the actual issue now. Starting off with a very great, typically awesome cosmic Kirby splash page here, and right off the bat, right into the action of the Black Racer running after Light Ray here, and he says it, Oblivion, I face Oblivion. So he knows who the Black Racer is. It's not really explained exactly why he's after Light Ray, but for some reason, I guess it was Light Ray's time to die, and he's about to catch up with him. Lots of great Kirby crackle here. Unfortunately, not well rendered by Vince Colletta, kind of loose and messy, as opposed to what Mike Royer is going to do once he's on the inks. I know I've said it many times. Can't wait till he shows up. Still a pretty cool image, though. I think Coletta's doing a better job on the Nougat stuff than he was doing on Jack Kirby at Marvel. But Mike Royer will definitely bring the level of the art and the aesthetic up a notch when he jumps in. Can't wait. I'll definitely be pointing that out when we get there. I like all these little bits here, these comments behind, like just the whole abstract interpretation of space back here by Kirby. Just classic and looks great. He doesn't go for the trope that he's been using pretty much over all the Fourth World Saga issues, or most of them at this point, of the double page splash after the splash. Don't know why he changes it here, but I guess for storytelling reasons, that's what he goes for. I love this whole sequence here, the in space, hiding behind the blocks, the power emanations from Light Ray's hands, all just classic Kirby aesthetic stuff. I love it. And like I said, once you see those straight kind of swooshing lines for the musculature and anatomy on the Black Racer and the squiggles, these are the kind of things that Colletta would do without and get rid of when he was doing Thor. But he's being very pretty, I won't say very, but pretty loyal to the pencils that Kirby's laid down. I feel like this does feel more authentically Kirby than some of that Thor stuff. But all these panels, I just love each of them. The composition, the negative space, the way Kirby visually interprets movement, the Black Racer, again, the power emanations. He's just a master of it, and everyone copies him, right? So cut to Earth, and again, this great shot of Orion here. I'll give credit to Vince Colletta. I think he does a good job here. Very Kirby-esque in its structure and anatomy and aesthetic. And this is the human component that I was telling you guys about, that Kirby is kind of extrapolating on here from earlier issues, but that eventually will get phased out. And I will say this, I don't think Kirby's the first to do it, and I never notice him doing it that much, but yeah, just in this kind of pedestrian shot, I guess, of the humans in Orion, he's given us a tilted horizon here, which definitely helps to make, this, again, fairly pedestrian scene a little more exciting. Just even this, I find, is a pretty just great shot and great splash page. So he's discussing with his human friends here, and basically he says here, which kind of relates to this idea that Darkseid is using Intergang as kind of his in-between here on Earth. So is Orion using these guys as his in-between between New Genesis and what's going on Earth. He says, "We of New Genesis must hide among men, as does the enemy from Apocalypse. We are in a secret war for all of Earth." Which is the basic idea, right? They're in a war, and Darkseid is here on Earth to find the anti-life equation, and Orion obviously is going to try and stop him. You'll notice over the course of the series, Orion's hair changes a little bit, gets a little bit longer. I don't know if that's the influence of fashion, the hippie movement, just longer hair in the late 60s and early 70s generally in society. So, these human characters here seem more from like the 50s or early 60s, right? A little more straight-laced type characters, right? And this will be important later. This character here, I forget his name, but he's an investigator, and Orion's going to join him there later on in this issue in some investigating. This is an interesting sequence that I feel is maybe undercut a little bit by, I don't know if it's Jack Kirby or the inker or whatever, but this idea, this is the first time that we introduced that Orion, doesn't actually look like this. He uses the mother box to hide his true appearance, which, Orion hasn't realized it yet, but we'll find out, and I'll just sell the plot point right away. Orion is the son of Darkseid, right? So there is a certain resemblance when you see his real visage and his real countenance. I don't know how you say that. That there's definitely a resemblance to Darkseid. So yeah, Orion's real face, and he's questioning, can this be the face of one of New Genesis? So even though he feels like he's from New Genesis, there's hints that there's something that he suspects about his origins that's not quite exactly what he thinks. Love this shot here, just the body language of it, of him kind of hiding his face in his hand here. I think that looks just a great panel here. And then boom, he gets dressed up as just a regular human here, right? To, as he says, and now the garments of earth, I play another masquerade, right? To pass off as a human and to go look into and investigate Intergang. And I thought this was just interesting here, where he's talking to his human friends here, and all of a sudden there's just this one panel, like just that surrealist kind of sci-fi vibe that I just love. There's no reason to all of a sudden have Orion, emanating all this power really and not having a shirt on anymore. It's kind of weird, but what a great shot. And I love that stuff. So we're back to the Black Racer running after Light Ray. And basically what's going to happen is Metron is going to show up and introduce a boom tube that just before Light Ray is caught by the Black Racer kind of flies into. And basically Metron, who's kind of playing both sides, right? We're not quite sure throughout the series if he's a good guy, a bad guy. Is he aligned with New Genesis? Is he aligned with Apocalypse? He's kind of playing both sides, right? He's the smart, intelligent guy, the explorer, right? He's always on the quest for knowledge. So he kind of want to keep both sides working with him, I guess, in his quest for knowledge. So in this case, he saves Orion. The Black Racer, again, we don't know if he's more of a New Genesis guy or an Apocalypse guy. Who knows for sure, right? Maybe he's neither, just kind of like just Metron somewhere in the middle. And then boom, we get back to the Black Racer once again, who through the boom tube is now released on Earth, right? So Destiny has changed my course and takes me here to Earth, what I basically just said, right? And as he shows up, he kind of shows up in the middle of a shootout between gang members, basically, and we're going to learn those are intergang. And this guy's here is called the Sugar Man. Again, kudos to Jack Kirby for including black characters in comics, right? The creator of the Black Panther, who originally was the Coal Tiger, and you can actually see his face. Stan Lee's the one who asked for a mask that hides most of his face. He was worried that maybe, having a really out there black character, obvious black character, would hurt sales somewhat, which it didn't. Black Panther was actually a pretty popular character, and I feel still is to a certain extent. And so while Sugar Man has shot a man down, he realizes there's a witness here who saw through the window, but he recognizes him as Sergeant Willie Walker, a Vietnam hero who had some sort of, obviously, injury in the war. Can't walk, talk, or even feed himself. So he's kind of paraplegic and can't talk. But he still decides that, can't have any witnesses. But just as he's about to shoot him, the hand of the Black Racer blocks his gun, and his face is hit. I don't know if he's exactly blinded, but we'll see later that he is injured by that. So this sequence, I'm not quite sure why. This is the kind of stuff that I mean, like Jack Kirby's kind of going on the fly and introducing concepts, maybe coming up with them and throwing them on the page right away, and they don't quite hit or have, reasonable explanation or reasons to be happening. So the fact that this guy is a paraplegic meets the Black Racer, and all of a sudden the Black Racer allows somehow through their contact for Willie to talk and move, right? And all of a sudden the armor, is just on the ground, and the Black Racer has disappeared, right? There's dust in the helmet, and then basically Willie Walker becomes the Black Racer. So I'm not quite sure what the reason for that is. It's a little odd kind of plot point. I don't know if that's, again, to tether the Black Racer to a human, just like, Kirby's trying to do early on in these New Gods books. But that's what goes on here. And again, I can't really explain why. So off he goes for his next query, as he says, right? And he's looking for the next person who's going to die and be accompanied by the Black Racer. So now we get back to Orion and our investigator, right? Looking into Intergang, right? And there's just a funny comment here, I thought, which points out something that wasn't obvious to me, but becomes obvious once you know. So he says to his buddy, this is Orion, as a special investigator, your work is appropriate for this mission of, trying to find out what Intergang's doing. And he says, so is your name, Orion. So all of a sudden Orion is spelt differently, as if it's like some Irish last name. And I guess what he's saying here, it's apt because, most police officers, I guess still in the 70s, are of Irish descent or something. So I don't know if from the beginning Orion, the name was chosen because it's also could be this kind of Irish last name here as his, alter ego on Earth. Jack Kirby's always been pretty good with those word plays and naming his characters. Mr. Miracle, his name is Scott Free. Like there's just something to the names he uses that sometimes I think are really cool and clever. Sometimes are kind of cheesy, but I just kind of like how he would do that. There's just something about it that I thought was fun. So here they are kind of spying on an Intergang, and I really like this character here. As a design, he's not a superhero. I don't think he's just kind of a mob boss guy, but I just really love his face. There's just something very Kirby-esque, obviously, and very monstrous about it. I just like that face design, something fun to it. So Sugarman is here, and yeah, as you can tell, he's been injured from that hand on the gun from earlier on, right? So his eyes are bandaged, but he's still wearing the glasses, which is pretty funny. So Intergang are just planning to use this huge bomb here, right? And ready to plant it somewhere to cause some chaos. So, of course, Mr. Investigator and Orion can't let that happen, so they crash in. Boom. And, of course, Orion is still superpowered, so you can see the effects of his superpowers here. Love this panel. Here, lots going on. Every character, different positions, lots of chaos, lots of debris explosion, but very easy to read. There's just something about Kirby's compositions that are clear and concise, even in moments of chaos, and this is a good example of that. Even just the foreshortening on the guns here, shooting towards Orion, the explosion, the effect of the guns, just great Kirby panel right here. Once again, this guy's face, love it. Those big gnarly teeth, Kirby staple. Here's an interest, this is a hard view to draw right from the top, and it's an interesting, you could have had just the shot of the characters from Intergang here loading up the truck, but no, he's stuck in the black racer at the top of this building. And even though I'm not a fan of the design, I'm definitely a fan of this angle and this extreme foreshortened view that we got here. And basically what we find out is that the black racer is coming after our friend the Sugarman. Now, once again, this is kind of odd because Sugarman, he's bandaged up, his eyes are bandaged, but he's driving a truck, so I'm not quite sure how that works or how that's supposed to work. Black Racer kind of uses his poles here to pin into the truck, right, that has the bomb, and the shot of the truck flying is just kind of hilarious to me. Kind of breaks a rule where usually you want to have movement, from left to right on a page rather than right to left, at least here in North America, because that's the direction that we read in. So kind of odd that Kirby chose to have it go from right to left. Doesn't really bother the story flow or the reading flow or anything like that. Just an odd choice. Maybe I would have flipped that around. So Orion on this page uses Mother Box once again. Since the truck is off into the air with the bomb inside, he detonates it and basically decides that it's far away enough from civilians and things to not cause any death or destruction. And his investigator buddy is always amazed by Mother Box, is a little wonder. She jammed the gang's guns and now she's blown up a bigger menace. She's great to have around. Kind of stating the obvious that it's almost like, it's a very convenient thing to have Mother Box around because it can pretty much do anything, right? So in any situation, it can get you out of a tight spot. And as far as writing goes and her plot points, distance means nothing to Mother Box. She can combat evil wherever it may be. So I've talked about, a lot how I think Mother Box is kind of the precursor to the cell phone, right? And Wi-Fi and things like that. So, Orion's basically saying that, it can affect reality, thousands of kilometers away, just like we can with the internet today and Wi-Fi and connectivity, right? And that's basically it for this issue in Orion. The Black Racer returns to Willie Walker, right? Or at least the home of Willie Walker, and then kind of reintegrates, Willie Walker's body that again is, paralyzed, can't talk, can't move or anything. So really, the grand power of the Black Racer is contained in this person who you think really can't do much. And that's basically it for this one. Like I said, the Black Racer will come back, I think, in some of the New Gods issues. But, you know, as much as work that was done in this issue to establish him and his powers and his connection to Willie Walker and all that, there's really not much that's going to be done with the Black Racer moving along. So it's kind of one of those things that's going to move by the wayside from this issue, just like Orion's more human friends. And there you go, guys. I'm pretty sure that's it for this one. Yep. So that is my review of Orion of the New Gods, issue number 3, or New Gods number 3, however you want to refer to it. If you're still watching and you are subscribed, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, please like and subscribe below. It really helps the channel out, helps us grow, helps get us out there to other people who are in comic books, just like we are. We're just on the cusp of hitting 500 subscribers, where we become an official YouTube channel in the eyes of YouTube, and YouTube starts helping us out a little bit with the algorithm and getting us out there to other people. So once again, thank you guys for watching. Really do appreciate it, and have yourselves an awesome day. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KIngCOMICS.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.
Like, subscribe!